Alright, so in today's video I want to talk about your maturity age. So like, I remember when I had this game on DS, and you'd play the game, it would do like memory puzzles, things like that, and then at the end it'll tell you your brain age. You know, is your brain young, is your brain younger than you, work quicker, or is it old and slowly and can't remember things. And then, you know, there's other things. If you go to like some Heart Foundation website and you put in values, you know, do you smoke, what's your cholesterol, etc., and it'll tell you your heart age. Is it, you know, healthy, is it young, is it old? So today I want to talk about things that point out your maturity age. So you could be a certain age, maybe, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, but what is your maturity age? Welcome to my channel and this playlist where I talk about topics, you know, godly insights, but I want to talk about like 3 points that show that you have a low maturity age. The first one is like a false maturity. This is a symptom of a false maturity. What is that? That is like, it seems like what you're doing is mature, but it actually shows that you're immature. It's a false maturity, and that is the sensible voice, or otherwise known as fear-mongering. So this happens a lot in motorcycling. Some activity where some people are riding around, and then, you know, let's say it's a YouTube video, and you get the fear-mongering. You know, they put these stories. It's like fear-mongering, and it seems like the mature thing to do. Now, I'm not against pointing out dangerous activities. Like, I'm not against pointing out cautions and things like that. But I want to explain to you why this sensible voice or fear-mongering is a false maturity. You know, they say, oh, don't ride a motorcycle, I knew something, blah blah blah, this happened to this person. My answer to that would be, okay, you told me your story, now I'm going to tell you a story, right? And there's stories that I don't want to tell you, and it's got nothing to do with motorcycling. It's stories of things happening to people, things going on, you know, people going on with their regular lives, maybe someone going to work one day, you know, and bad things happen. I don't even want to talk about it to people who don't deserve these things to happen to. You know, maybe they're like young children. Like, I don't even want to mention it. You know, maybe people go out in a car. Like, I can tell you stories. I can tell you really bad stories. But what would the point of that be? You can tell me a story about a motorcycling, and I can tell you a story about someone who was just going to work in the morning, and you know, he never made it. That was his last day, or something happened at work and that was his last day. Or the story about someone who had a heart attack or got cancer or had a stroke or something. So, you know, what is the point of telling these stories? Motorcycling is not the only way that people die or get injured. The reason why this is a false maturity, because it's a very narrow focused way of thinking. The reason is the general fact of life is that in life bad stuff happen. And I actually get the sense that a lot of motorcyclists, a lot of riders have more of maturity than these fear-mongers. They understand that in life, like, bad things happen. Some people believe that everything happens for a reason. Some people just embrace and accept the danger that they're getting into, because they realize that in life a lot of things can happen, a lot of bad things can happen. This thinking that, you know, you should just embrace life as it is actually like, you know, the Greek mythological, if you read about those thinkers, the mythology, that's how they, you know, they didn't run away from death. They just sort of accepted it. It's part of life. Other religions, current religions, do that as well. And I think you need a bit of a maturity to just accept that rather than fear-mongering. Okay, don't ride a motorcycle. You're not going to be much safer, you know, with all the other things that can happen in this life. And the fear-mongers don't understand that. And that's why they have a low maturity. The second fear-mongering, which shows a very low intelligence and low maturity, is like these government ads to deter, maybe it's a health campaign, or even like a driving, road safety or motorcycling, these campaigns that show disturbing images. There was one I remember many years ago, and it was back when I was in uni, and I was doing temp work, and there was this anti-smoking campaign. It was about some lady who's got terminal cancer, and she's talking about how she had like a young daughter, and it's obviously it's supposed to deter you, and like how she's really sad that she doesn't have much longer to live, and what's going to happen. She doesn't have much money, etc. Who's going to look after her daughter? She's a single parent, and it was a very sad narrative. And the ad was trying to say, don't smoke because this will happen, or this can happen. But what really hit me about how thoughtless this ad was when I was doing that temp work that I mentioned. I met a lady there, and she was young, but she had a daughter. She had like a young daughter, and the lady told me that she just told me that she's been diagnosed with leukemia, and she told me how she lost 4 kilos in the last couple of weeks or something, and she was pretty much in the same situation of this person in the ad. This lady didn't smoke. She just she was a single mum. She was coming to work every day trying to make a living for her daughter, and she just got leukemia. We don't know what caused her. She didn't do anything. She didn't smoke. And it's people like her that don't need to be traumatized more by these ads. These ads don't need to rub it into her. She didn't smoke, and she's getting what the ad's saying. She's being traumatized. She's getting the fear. She's living the fear of what this ad's talking about. But she didn't smoke. And that is the most, that is the most thoughtless part of these ads, is that there are people who are going to these situations, but they're not doing the activities that they're trying to deter. A better way to stop people from, to deter people from doing something dangerous or wrong, is to provide like advice and tools, and prevent, in a positive way, these things from happening. People who smoke know that smoking is bad. Why not invest time in showing them how they can quit, or being positive, giving them some positive light to look at? At least you won't be traumatizing the other people who didn't smoke but are going through those traumatizing things, those disturbing situations. Also with like road safety campaigns or riding, showing disturbing images about riding, most riders actually become desensitized to these. Wouldn't it be better to have a more positive outlook? Train people, show people, educate people, avoid doing this, give them training, give them skills. Positive light, I think, will go a much further way and be much more effective. So that was the first point that shows a person with a low maturity. The second one is when a person lacks the ability to articulate, unable to communicate. These people, they're not able to explain why one decision is better over another. This point is actually the basis of why arguments and disagreements exist. People don't have the ability to articulate. That's when arguments happen. Even if it's a selfish motive, if you are open about, I want this, people generally hide selfish motives and they just argue around it, other pointless things that don't make any sense. But maybe if you just open up and say, well, yeah, I want it because I want this, the other person might actually be moved with compassion and just do it because they've seen that it's just something that you want. But it's pretty rare that people open up to the real reason of what they're arguing about, and so they spend a lot of time arguing points that don't make sense, and it just leaves the other person baffled as to why they're even having this type of conversation. But in other cases, it's too shameful to actually tell the other person what the real motive is, so they keep it hidden. Motives like superiority, someone who thinks that they're right because the other person is just simply stupid and for no other reason. They think that, and that's why they're not saying that that's the main point that they're arguing. They're just skirting around it. And so what happens with people who cannot articulate, or they want to hide their motives because they're evil or selfish, is that they manipulate. They can't articulate, so they resort to manipulation. They make others side with them. They set things up to remove maybe power from you, or to discredit you, to take away influence of your decisions. But no matter how much manipulation or discrediting a person does, the truth will always be burning inside you, because that is the nature of truth. And this is how authoritarianism works. People in authority make decisions for people who are too stupid to come up with their own, and they make people comply with threats and manipulation. Needless to say who the daft person really is in this situation. Ironically, the reason that a person who cannot articulate and needs to manipulate does so is because they don't have the ability to think in a wider scale. They can think in a very narrow point, and maybe even be highly functioning on that narrow point, but they don't have the ability to expand their thinking. There is parts of their thinking is not functional, and that's why they have to resort to authoritarianism. Now, I'm not saying that you're always going to be right in an argument, but your discussions with people, all discussions need to be reasonable. You need to listen, look out for new information that might change your mind or change a decision. Otherwise, give your points and accept when they've been challenged. If someone is still disagreeing with you and not able to give you a logical reason why, then maybe you are dealing with someone who does not have the ability to articulate, and they'll resort to other means like manipulation, discrediting, and threatening. The third point that shows that a person has low maturity is someone who has the one-size-fits-all mentality. And again, this one is seen a lot in motorcycling. Now, my playlist isn't about motorcycling, but again, you see a lot of this type of people in motorcycling. There's a lot of hate out there for someone who's dissimilar. Maybe this behavior is like locked into our genes or something, human genetics. Destroy everyone who's different to you, and make your gene pool dominate. The one-size-fits-all is identified by some very annoying characteristics. One being that they are inflexible and they fear to consider like other alternatives. They fail to recognize uniqueness, nuances of a given scenario. Nothing makes you look more immature than when you offer a solution to a problem that you barely even understand. You didn't even hear it through. And oddly enough, another characteristic of these people is that they lack empathy. They lack the general empathy of mankind. I believe that the main reason that someone lacks this kind of maturity, and they resort to one size fits all, is simply down to lack of life experience. It's people who sit in their own ivory towers. They've set themselves up with the false affirmations of their success. They're precious, privileged, untouchable, isolated with their own ideas. No one's been able to. They've hidden themselves from criticism. They've had no opportunity to fail. And the solution is live life. Don't always chase comfort, ease. Challenge yourself, push your boundaries. I've had undertakings in life that, in terms of objectively, they've completely failed. But I still maintain that the experience was valuable. Hold yourself accountable. Face up to failing. Realize that you're not great, that you're just human. At least then you can relate to all the other humans on this planet, so that life will go well with you. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I hope it was helpful for you. I'm not saying this stuff to be judgmental. There's a lot of lessons that I've learned myself, and there are solutions for all of these things. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like my content in general, please subscribe, make a comment, tell me what you think. I think this is going to be like part 1 of multiple series. So tell me what you think. Tell me if you've experienced people who lack maturity and what were their characteristics. Yeah, so that's all I've got. And if you are riding a motorcycle, take it easy and ride safe.